Welcome, guys. This is Liverpool FC Journal. I'm Owen W. James, and this is your Liverpool news update, guys. On what is Champions League match day? Of course, Liverpool taking on PSV Eindhoven tonight at 8 o'clock at Anfield. Liverpool looking for a chance to get back to winning ways against a team leading the Dutch Eredivisie. Look, I think, the season has not gone as expected. I think a lot of people were expecting the season to go a hell of a lot better than it has gone so far. It's been a bit of a disaster. To sit in the table below both Manchester United and Everton is certainly unacceptable. Now, as we fast approach the January transfer window, look, let's face it, it's December next week. Soon that will be over, and January the 1st will be here before we know it. Now, it was initially reported by a number of sources, David Ornstein, Lewis Steele, etc., that Liverpool would have a quiet January window and probably wouldn't be looking to add to the squad. That was what was initially reported. However, it is now being reported by this man, Fabrizio Romano, that is no longer the case. Fabrizio is saying that Liverpool will be active during the January transfer window, which I think, we can all kind of say that, yeah, absolutely, Liverpool need to be active. They need to go out there and try and kickstart their season some way, shape or form. Romano, said that basically, paraphrasing what he said, he talked about the fact that, look, Liverpool had spent very heavily in the summer, nearly £440 million. And that kind of obviously the hope had been that that money that was spent in the summer, would lead to Liverpool not having to do a lot of business in January, that they could keep obviously the money locked away, ready until the summer to obviously then go again in the summer. That was very much the initial thought, and I think that was why those reports were coming out from Lewis Steele and David Ornstein and others. But speaking on the Here We Go podcast, this is what Fabrizio Romano said. I think it's a possibility that Liverpool make a signing in January. It's something that maybe if you asked me this question in September or early October, the answer was probably Liverpool didn't want to do anything else. They would be very happy with their summer transfer window. They invested an awful lot of money. So Liverpool were really excited to see this team performing despite a difficult start in terms of the long term. Now, obviously, it's ready almost more than 3 months into the season. Liverpool are doing very badly, and they are considering the possibility of entering into the January transfer window with some sort of activity. We will see about positions, because this could depend on the next few weeks. So nothing is decided now, today, tomorrow or next week. It might take some time, some weeks, to decide which positions they want to cover. Look, I think, it is a very strong possibility. Romano went on to conclude, he said, but Liverpool have started to consider internally the possibility of adding maybe one player in the January transfer window. And again, based on injuries, based on opportunities, based on the market, they will see what they want to do. So that is what Romano is reporting. I've got to say that for me, look, I've seen the links to Antoine Semenyo. I think that is a very strong link, especially given the fact that it's coming out that this is a real live deal that can be done, and there's other teams interested in the player for the 60 million release clause plus 5 million add-ons. However, I personally feel that the need is more to strengthen in the centre-back area. I think the centre-back area of this team is very, very weak indeed. Ibou Konate has been absolutely dreadful this season. Virgil is not getting any younger. Joe Gomez is extremely unreliable, as we've seen, due to his injuries. And Giovanni Leone is gone for the season. But, there's certainly the live links seem to be to these two players, to Mark Guéhi and to Antoine Semenyo, with even Crystal Palace coming out and saying that they feel that Liverpool will come back in for their captain in January. Realistically, you look at those two players, and I think, if you push me to choose between the two of them, I'd say Mark Guéhi is an absolute must for January. I think there is a real need to strengthen the team in that centre-back area, and Guéhi would certainly bring leadership, communication. He'd also be a player who is more willing to put his body on the line, to block, to be more aggressive in defence. One thing that I think can be fairly levelled at both Virgil and Ibou Konate this season is their lack of their front foot defending, the lack of aggression in their defending. They certainly haven't shown any of that at any point this season, I think, whereas Guéhi would bring that. Look, don't get me wrong, I'd like to see Antoine Semenyo as well. I think he would certainly add to the team. I think he would obviously be valuable cover as well, while Salah is away at AFCON. And I think he would be the Luis Diaz replacement we haven't had. It could be that a player goes out in January. I don't know. But for me as well, that attacking area, whilst people say, well, we've spent 440 million, the majority of that on attacking players, that attacking area to me is still quite weak. Arne Slot talks of having 6 players in that attacking area. There certainly for me is not 6 players in that attacking area. There is 4, because the manager doesn't obviously trust Rio and Gamoa. He's 17 years old. He's still learning his trade. It's a lot to put on a 17-year-old. And for whatever reason, despite the fact that the man has averages 1 goal contribution every 73 minutes in the league, Chiesa seems to be, I don't know, persona non grata with the manager. I genuinely don't know what Arne Slot's issue with Federico is. So that narrows it down straight away to Isak, Ekitike, Salah and Gakpo. Now, Gakpo's form this season has been mixed. Salah's form has been dire. Isak's injury record is poor, and Ekitike has been the only one on form. So, adding Semenyo would not perhaps look as daft as it first seems to some fans. But look, I think, if it is only one signing, as Fabrizio Romano is rumouring, then I think Guehi is, for me, the definite must-have in January, given how bad this defence has been. But it's now obviously to Richard Hughes, to Michael Edwards and Arne Slot going forward to come up with this strategy. What do they plan to do? How do they plan to put together offers that would be attractive? And also, what are Liverpool willing to pay for Marc Guehi, a player who will be free at the end of the season? Okay, I say free. No player is free because they're signing on fees, wages, etc., etc. So, I get that. But, would a 20 to 25 million pound bid be irresponsible in January for Guehi? I don't think it would, given the riches that it could certainly bring back, I believe, bringing him into the squad. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts on this Fabrizio Romano story. Obviously, drop me a comment, let me know. And if you've enjoyed the content, obviously, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thanks for catching us. We'll catch you next time.